Remember when a quiet prison drama about hope, friendship, and a guy with a tiny rock hammer became one of the most beloved movies ever made? Yeah, that was The Shawshank Redemption. Released in 1994, the story followed Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, a banker wrongly convicted of murder who spent decades in Shawshank prison quietly planning the most patient escape in cinema history. Along the way, he befriended Red, played by Morgan Freeman. The movie is iconic and the behind-the-scenes stories are just as wild, so today we're counting down 15 facts you probably didn't know about this classic movie. Now, before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hype this video if you're into nostalgic deep dives just like this one. It helps us bring you more retro movie content every week. Oh, and stick around for number 1. What Tim Robbins did to prepare for this role is legitimately wild. Alright, let's get into it with number 15. The sewage was chocolate syrup and sawdust. Andy Dufresne's crawl to freedom, that 500 yards through a sewer pipe, is one of the most iconic and disgusting scenes in cinema. Except the sewage that Tim Robbins was crawling through was not disgusting at all. The crew filled the pipe with chocolate syrup, sawdust, and water. A gooey DIY sludge that looked like your worst plumbing nightmare but smelled like a Hershey's chocolate factory. To this day, visitors at the Ohio State Reformatory claim the old pipe still has a faint cocoa aroma. Freedom never smelled so sweet. But here's where things got actually nasty. That triumphant shot of Andy bursting into the rain, the stream he fell into was real and full of farm runoff. Translation: cow poop. A chemist tested the water and declared it absolutely lethal, so the crew sterilized it before filming, just in case. Oh, and according to Robbins, if Andy had crawled through a real sewer, methane gas would have killed him in minutes. So that daring escape is pure movie magic, held together by chocolate syrup and a lot of faith in set safety. Robbins spent hours crawling through fake sewage and contaminated river water to nail the scene. Screenwriter and director Frank Darabont later called him a trooper, which feels like an understatement. The man earned every bit of that praise and probably a tetanus shot. Number 14, Rob Reiner tried to buy the script for $2.5 million. Before The Shawshank Redemption ever rolled camera, it almost became a very different movie, one starring Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford. After Frank Darabont wrote the screenplay, he brought it to Castle Rock Entertainment, co-founded by Rob Reiner, the guy who'd already turned the Stephen King novella The Body into the box office hit Stand By Me. Reiner read the script and immediately knew he had to make it, so he made Darabont an offer. $2.5 million for the rights, and Reiner would direct it himself. Oh, and he had stars lined up. Tom Cruise as Andy Dufresne and Harrison Ford as Red. He pictured a guaranteed blockbuster with two of the biggest names in Hollywood. For Darabont, a guy who'd grown up poor and banged out the script in 8 weeks, this was life-changing money. The kind of payday most screenwriters could only dream about, but he said no. Why? Because he wanted to direct the movie himself, of course. Even if it meant taking a tiny fraction of the offer, $750,000 and a small cut of future profits. He wasn't going to hand over his dream project to someone else. As Darabont later put it, you can keep deferring your dreams in exchange for money and die without ever having done the thing you set out to do. Now, that's heavy stuff, but also absolutely the right call. To Reiner's credit, he didn't sulk. Instead, he mentored Darabont through the whole process, helping turn a first-time director into someone who could pull off one of the best films ever made. The movie earned 7 Oscar nominations and outlasted every sure thing Hollywood had cranked out that year. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford, I think their careers turned out just fine. Number 13, Stephen King framed his uncashed check. When Frank Darabont bought the film rights to Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption back in 1987, Stephen King charged him a whopping $5,000. For context, that's what most of us spend on a used Honda Civic, not exactly Hollywood money. But here's where it gets good. King never cashed the check. Years later, after Shawshank became one of the most beloved films of all time, King framed the uncashed check and mailed it to Darabont with a handwritten note. In case you ever need bail money, love, Steve. Absolute legend. Turns out this wasn't just a random act of generosity. Darabont had been one of the young filmmakers King supported through his Dollar Baby program, where he sold adaptation rights to his short stories for literally $1. Darabont's early work impressed King so much that when it came time to adapt Shawshank, King sold him the rights for pocket change and basically said, "Go make something great, kid." And when Darabont delivered a masterpiece, King responded by never cashing the check. It was his way of saying, I don't need the money, I just wanted to see what you do with it. The bail money joke was just the cherry on top. Number 12. Morgan Freeman's son appears twice. Morgan Freeman's voice could narrate a grocery list and make it sound profound, but in The Shawshank Redemption, he wasn't the only Freeman on screen. His real-life son, Alfonso, showed up twice in the movie, and odds are you never noticed either time. First up, those parole hearing mugshots showing Red aging over the decades. Plot twist, the early photo wasn't Morgan at all. It was Alfonso standing in as young Red. The resemblance was so strong that the switcheroo was basically seamless. Unless you're freeze framing and playing detective, you're not catching it. But wait, there's more. Alfonso also appeared as one of the inmates during the fresh fish scene. You know, when the prisoners rolled in and everyone was placing bets on who would crack first. He was the guy yelling, fresh fish today, we reeling them in, while doing the whole imaginary fishing rod thing. It was an uncredited cameo that became one of the most quotable background moments in the entire film. Funnily enough, this wasn't just a one-time family hookup either. Alfonso popped up in more of his dad's movies. Seven as a fingerprint tech, and The Bucket List as, surprise, Morgan's son. So next time you're watching Shawshank for the 100th time, keep your eyes peeled. While Red was doing hard time, his real son was hiding in plain sight the whole time. Number 11. Morgan Freeman's arm was in a sling after 9 hours of filming. That casual game of catch in the prison yard, the one that looked like two buddies just tossing a ball around? Yeah, Morgan Freeman threw that baseball for 9 straight hours. Frank Darabont wanted the scene to feel natural and intimate, so he shot it from every possible angle. Wide shots, close-ups, over the shoulder, you name it. And for nearly an entire workday, Freeman stood there throwing and catching the baseball on repeat while staying locked into Red's calm, thoughtful vibe. No stand-ins, no breaks. Just Morgan Freeman casually enduring what amounts to the world's longest game of catch. And here's the kicker. He smiled through the whole thing, never complained and never asked to stop. But the next morning, he showed up on set with his arm in a sling. That was the moment that everyone realized just how much damage 9 hours of non-stop baseball can do to a human shoulder. Did Freeman mention it during filming? Nope. He just powered through because he didn't want to slow down production or mess with the flow of the scene. The crew was floored. Tim Robbins later said that day told you everything you needed to know about Morgan. He lives inside that moment, no matter what it takes. Number 10. Brad Pitt almost played Tommy. Brad Pitt almost did time in Shawshank. Not for real, obviously, but he was originally cast as Tommy Williams, the young inmate whose testimony could have freed Andy Dufresne. This was early 90s Pitt, fresh off his shirtless Thelma and Louise breakout and climbing fast toward leading man status. Frank Darabont thought he'd be perfect for Tommy, a small but crucial role that needed charm, edge, and just enough naivete to make the character's fate hit hard. But then, Pitt got an offer that he couldn't refuse, starring opposite Tom Cruise in Interview with a Vampire. And honestly, playing a tortured bloodsucker in period costumes with one of the biggest movie stars on the planet was a pretty easy choice over playing a prison inmate in an indie drama nobody thought would be a hit. So, Pitt traded the prison blues for Victorian lace and Shawshank went to plan B. Gil Bellows, a relative unknown, brought exactly the right energy to Tommy. Sweet, sincere, and grounded. Darabont later admitted that Pitt's rising stardom might have actually been a distraction. Audiences would have been too busy thinking, hey, that's Brad Pitt, instead of caring about Tommy's story. And for what it's worth, Pitt had no regrets. He later said in interviews that he thought things work out the way they're supposed to. He got a blockbuster, Bellows got a breakout, and Shawshank got the cast it needed. Number 9. The rock hammer was hidden in the Book of Exodus. When the warden finally discovered Andy's escape, he got hit with the most beautiful piece of irony in the entire movie. That hollowed-out Bible he found, it was open to the Book of Exodus. The biblical story about slaves escaping to freedom? It's subtle as a brick through a window and absolutely perfect. Remember earlier when the warden smugly told Andy salvation lies within? He was talking about spiritual salvation, trying to sound all righteous while running the most corrupt prison in Maine, but Andy, he took it literally. His salvation did lie within, specifically inside the pages of Exodus, hollowed out to hide the rock hammer that let him chip his way to freedom. Number 8. The opera scene has a secret meaning. Andy locking himself in the warden's office and blasting opera over the prison loudspeakers is one of the most iconic scenes in Shawshank. It's beautiful, it's defiant, and it's also way more clever than most people realize. The piece he played was titled, and I'm gonna try my best here, Canzonetta Solitaria, from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. a duet where two women plot to expose a cheating husband. The Countess and her maid Susanna write a fake love letter to trap the Count in his own infidelity. So basically, the song is about revealing betrayal. Now check this out. Andy was in prison because of his wife's affair. He was doing time for a crime of passion he didn't commit, framed by her betrayal. So when he played this specific duet about exposing a cheater, that wasn't random. That was Andy taking back control of the narrative that destroyed his life. But the real power move? He forced everyone in Shawshank to remember they're human beings. The prison system was designed to strip that away, reduce men to numbers, routines, and obedience. By blasting Mozart across the yard, Andy wasn't just sharing music, he was staging an act of resistance. He was reminding them there's more to life than gray walls and counting days. And here's the thing, none of the prisoners even know what the song meant. They couldn't understand Italian, and it didn't matter. As Red said, I have no idea to this day what those two Italian ladies were singing about. I'd like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed with words. For those few moments, everyone in Shawshank felt free. Of course, Andy paid for it, 2 weeks in solitary, but he didn't care, because that was the whole point of the scene. Hope and beauty can survive anywhere, even in a place designed to crush both, even when it costs you everything. Now we're going to take a little bit of a pause for the cause. If you're loving the Shawshank stories, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies and TV that shaped a generation. And tell us in the comments, how did you first watch Shawshank? Was it in theaters, on VHS, DVD, or was it one of those endless TNT reruns like me? Now, let's get back to the countdown with number 7. Red was originally a red-haired Irishman. In Stephen King's original novella, Ellis Red Redding was exactly what his name suggested, a white middle-aged Irishman with graying red hair. So when The Shawshank Redemption hit theaters with Morgan Freeman in the role, it's safe to say that it was a pretty major departure from the source material. And also, one of the best casting decisions ever made. The idea came from producer Liz Glotzer, who thought Freeman's voice and presence were perfect for Red. Frank Darabont agreed and went with what he called a colorblind casting approach, focusing on who fit the character, not who matched the description. Freeman, though, he wasn't immediately sold. He told Yahoo Entertainment that when he first read the novella, he got halfway through, realized Red was Irish, and thought, I can't play an Irishman. But the script was too good to pass up, so he eventually came around. Good call, Morgan. The movie even acknowledged the change. When Andy asked Red why he was called that, Freeman delivers one of the film's best throwaway lines. It's a perfect little wink to fans of the book, and it lands every time. Casting Freeman also added something the novella didn't have. It had a black man navigating a 1940s prison system, which brought its own unspoken weight. The movie didn't make a big deal out of it, but it was there, adding another layer to a story that's already about dignity, survival, and the abuse of power. And honestly, Freeman's performance became so iconic that it's impossible to imagine anyone else as Red, Irish or not. That voice, that presence, and that delivery, he was Red. End of discussion. Number 6, it flopped at the box office, but then became a hit. It's hard to believe now, but when The Shawshank Redemption hit theaters in 1994, it was anything but a success. With a $25 million budget, it earned barely $16 million back, a certified box office flop. So what went wrong? Start with the title. Frank Darabont had dropped Rita Hayworth from King's novella to avoid confusion, but that only made things worse. Hollywood execs thought it was a biopic about the actress, and Darabont even got casting requests from supermodels wanting to play the non-existent lead role. And for general audiences, the name Shawshank meant nothing, or worse, sounded made up. Tim Robbins later joked that fans came up to him saying things like, I love that Scrimshaw Reduction movie. Not exactly the word of mouth you want. Then there was the competition. Shawshank went head-to-head with, get this, Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and The Lion King. All three cultural juggernauts. Add in an all-male cast and a grim prison setting, and the film just didn't look like the date night material that you want in a movie theater. But then the movie pulled off its own redemption arc. When Shawshank hit home video, it exploded, becoming the most rented VHS tape of 1995, with over 320,000 copies shipped to video stores. Then TNT started airing it constantly, turning the once-forgotten drama into a comfort classic for millions. Before long, the movie that no one could pronounce became the one everyone could quote, and it's held the #1 spot on IMDb's top 250 for years. Number 5, the iconic oak tree was in Ohio, not Maine. In the movie, Andy tells Red to find a certain oak tree, like something out of a Robert Frost poem. It was one of the most emotional moments in the movie, as Red discovered Andy's letter under that very tree and finally understood what hope really meant. But here's the twist. That tree wasn't in Maine at all. It was a real white oak in Mansfield, Ohio, standing in a hayfield near Malabar Farm State Park, just a few miles from the old Ohio State Reformatory where the movie was filmed. After Shawshank became a cult favorite, the tree itself turned into a tourist landmark. Thousands of fans flocked to visit it each year, following the Shawshank Trail to see the spot where Andy's message of hope was found. Unfortunately, time and the weather caught up to it. In 2011, the tree was struck by lightning and split down the middle. The damage weakened it so badly that a windstorm in 2016 brought the rest of it down. By 2017, what was left had to be completely removed. But just like the film it came from, the story has its own redemption. Local craftspeople used the fallen wood to create keepsakes, rock hammers, magnets, even furniture, all made from pieces of the legendary oak. The site where it once stood still draws visitors from around the world, marked by a plaque that reads like a tribute to the movie's message itself. The tree may be gone, but its legacy lives on, a quiet symbol of hope, survival, and the idea that even in loss, something beautiful can endure. Number 4. Real guards warned the crew about screams. The Shawshank Redemption wasn't filmed on a Hollywood backlot. It was shot in a real abandoned prison with a seriously dark history. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio had been closed just a few years earlier, but its eerie reputation? Yeah, that stuck around. Built in the late 1800s, the reformatory had seen over a century of overcrowding, violence, and more than 200 deaths, inmates and guards included. By the time the film crew showed up in the early 90s, locals were already calling it one of the most haunted places in America. To keep the movie authentic, Frank Darabont hired several former guards as consultants. And they didn't just share prison stories, they gave the crew warnings. After dark, they said it wasn't unusual to hear disembodied screams, footsteps in empty hallways, and doors slamming shut with nobody around. At first, the crew brushed it off. Then, actor Mark Rolston, who played Boggs, decided to test the theory and tried spending the night there. Allegedly, he didn't make it until morning. Strange noises and cold drafts were enough to convince him the legends might not be folklore after all. Still, the creepy atmosphere worked. The prison's gothic, imposing architecture was exactly what Darabont needed to bring Shawshank to life. These days, the Ohio State Reformatory has fully leaned into its haunted reputation. It's now a tourist destination and ghost hunting hotspot, offering Shawshank tours by day and paranormal investigations by night. So, if you ever visit and hear a scream echoing through the halls, well, the guards did warn everyone. Number 3. Some extras were real ex-cons. One reason the Shawshank Redemption feels so real is because in a few scenes, it actually was. When production started in Mansfield, Ohio, the filmmakers needed dozens of background actors to fill out the prison yard and mess hall. But there wasn't exactly a deep bench of professional extras in town, so they did the next best thing. They recruited them from a local halfway house, bringing in former inmates to play prisoners on screen. It was a brilliant move. These guys knew how to walk, talk, and carry themselves like people who'd done time. Their natural body language gave the film's crowd scenes a gritty authenticity that professional extras couldn't fake. Cast and crew said their presence changed the energy on set. Even Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins felt it. That subtle edge and realism that made every yard scene feel genuinely alive. Number 2, the beach reunion almost didn't happen. That final shot of Red and Andy reuniting on the beach in Zihuatanejo, that's one of the most satisfying endings ever put to film. Except, it almost didn't exist. In Stephen King's original novella, the story ended on a bus. Red found Andy's letter buried, boarded a bus heading south, and then that's it.
I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand.
No reunion, no beach, just hope, and a whole lot of uncertainty. Pretty bold for a prison story, but very Stephen King-ish. When Frank Darabont wrote the screenplay, he planned to keep that ambiguous ending. The studio, they didn't love it. Producer Liz Glotzer basically told him, after 2+ hours of hell, you might owe people that reunion. Castle Rock agreed to finance the beach scene, but left the final decision up to Darabont. So he did what any smart director would do. He filmed it both ways. One ending stayed true to King's fade to black ambiguity. The other showed Red finally finding Andy on that beach. Test audiences went nuts for the reunion, and Darabont realized Glotzer was right. Sometimes you gotta give the people what they want. But here's the thing, Even after deciding to show the reunion, Darabont kept it wordless. He cut out dialogue. He later described it as, "Golly gee, ain't we cute?" to keep the moment from getting too sappy. Smart move. The scene works because it doesn't oversell itself. Just two friends, a beach, and the payoff we'd been waiting for. So yeah, technically the studio interfered, but in this case, they were absolutely right. Because as much as we love ambiguous art house endings, we really wanted to see Red and Andy shake hands on that beach. Number 1. Tim Robbins asked to be locked in solitary. To play Andy Dufresne, a man wrongfully imprisoned for decades, Tim Robbins wanted to understand what isolation actually felt like. So, before filming started, he asked prison officials to lock him in solitary confinement. They weren't about to let a Hollywood actor play prisoner for days, but they did give him some time alone in one of the empty cells. No contact, no sound, no light, just Robbins and 4 walls. Afterward, he said it gave him, quote, "a sense of what the isolation is and what the loneliness of it is." But let's be clear, he absolutely knew spending a few voluntary hours in a cell he could leave any time was not the same as years of actual imprisonment with no escape. But that glimpse still mattered. You can see it in his performance, the quiet patience, the internal resolve, the way he plays Andy as someone genuinely enduring captivity, not just a hero waiting for his moment. Now, we know, method acting can be ridiculous when actors take it too far, and we're looking at you, Jared Leto, but in this case, Robbins used it thoughtfully to add real weight to the role. He didn't pretend he'd experienced prison, he just tried to tap into a fraction of what it might feel like. And it worked. His performance became one of the most authentic portrayals of incarceration in film history, even if his prep was a Hollywood version of the real thing. And there you have it, 15 weird and wonderful facts about the Shawshank Redemption. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and check out our playlist of other deep dives in the description. Until next time, remember, this is Remember When.